Time now to take a look through the French papers with Elena Casas. Hello, Elena. Starting off with May Day.
Yes, a very political May Day, as Le Monde puts it on its front page, between giant meetings and irritating scandals for politicians. Of course, in there they're referring to those allegations that Gaddafi might have funded Sarkozy's 2007 campaign, to which we'll come back in a minute. But the main news for today, of course, are these big rival demonstrations going on in central Paris. The annual Union March, which supposedly is meant to be politically neutral. The unions, of course, very powerful in France, organised these big meetings, marches every May Day in favour of workers' rights, but without, of course, the affiliation to any particular political party or the support of any political party. So the idea of turning this into a political meeting in favour of one particular candidate in this Sunday's presidential election is very controversial here in France, and that is just exactly what Nicolas Sarkozy is doing, of course. He's organising what effectively is a counter-rally designed specifically to annoy the unions, because he's said a lot recently about how they're not real representatives of workers, they represent vested interests rather than real workers. He's come out, of course, in favour of real workers. He did say last week real work and has now had to retract those words, first denying he said them and then apologising for them because he upset so many people who thought he was alleging that they do fake work. But as Le Monde points out today, it's not just him that's being accused of manipulating this for political ends. They also, in that paper, quite strongly criticise the unions themselves, who have called on their members to vote for François Hollande, particularly the CGT, which is one of France's biggest unions. They've called on members to beat Sarkozy. Now, Le Monde reckons that actually is a step too far away from what the traditional role of unions in the French society is meant to be. They're meant to be, as I said, entirely apolitical. So
you've got workers' rallies today. Nicolas Sarkozy has organised his own rally, but of course you've also got the National Front, because every May Day it stages a gathering.
Yes, they've been holding those since 1988 to celebrate, they say, the birthday of Joan of Arc, who's one of their icons in the Front National's iconography. But this year it's going to be much bigger, of course, than previous years, after they got 18% of first-round votes just over a week ago. And Marine Le Pen today is expected to tell her voters what she wants them to do when they get into their voting booths or not on this coming Sunday, whether she wants them to stay away from the polls entirely, whether she wants them to vote blank, or indeed whether she wants them to vote for Nicolas Sarkozy. But that's the last thing she's going to say, of course. It's probably what most of her voters will still go out and do, explains the Huffington Post, because they are still right-leaning voters. But it's not what she wants. She's trying to push them to create a kind of separate voting bloc that she can then mobilise for the parliamentary elections in June, where she's hoping to beat Sarkozy's UMP through a number of different seats across France. Sarkozy, of course, is going all out still to win over her voters. That's what a lot of this rhetoric about real work is about, trying to win those people over. But he has actually managed, as Le Parisien points out, to upset a number of people within his own UMP by holding this rally. Even the Prime Minister, François Fillon, has said it's a political manipulation too far.
Now, the paper is also talking again about these claims that are casting a shadow over Nicolas Sarkozy's campaign, claims that he got funding from Gaddafi's regime for his last campaign.
Yes, he's now suing, of course, Mediapart, which published those documents at the weekend that make that allegation. Are they really plausible? Well, Le Parisien has been looking at the timetable of Brice Hortefeux, the then minister, who supposedly was at a meeting in Tripoli with people close to Gaddafi on the 6th of October 2006. Now, if you look at his ministerial timetable, that does look a bit unlikely, because apparently he was at a dinner in his constituency in central France the evening before and at an awards ceremony in the same town the following afternoon, so he'd have had to have taken a 3-hour flight to Tripoli and back within the space of about 8 hours altogether. But the Les Incorruptibles, the magazine, has another piece of investigation that might be a little bit more embarrassing for Nicolas Sarkozy. They reckon they've got documents from 2007 proving that he struck a deal with Gaddafi to secure the liberation of 5 Bulgarian nurses who are being held in exchange for providing French technology and support to build a nuclear plant.
And briefly, this May Day is so political that even flowers have to choose their camp.
Yes, Lily of the Valley is the traditional flower for May Day here in France. It's sold in the street. It kind of symbolises the beginning of spring. But it's also been used by the Communist Party since the 1930s to raise money for the party. That's what most of those sellers are doing. It's become a symbol of the revolutionary, the left-wing marches on the 1st of May. But they're unhappy now, the Communist Party, because they reckon a number of people, other people, including right-wing groups, are trying to make money out of selling Lily of the Valley today.
All right, thank you very much, Elena, for running us through the French papers.